Welcome. In the next few minutes, we will explore QMS Scope as defined by Clause 4.3 of ISO 9001. Scope determines what is included in your quality management system and what is not. We will look at how to define boundaries, what must be included, when exclusions are justified, and how to write a clear scope statement. Let us get started. We begin by understanding what QMS Scope means and why it is such a critical element of the standard. QMS Scope is one of the most important decisions an organization makes when building its quality management system. Here's how it works. Clause 4.3 of ISO 9001 requires the organization to determine the boundaries and applicability of the QMS to establish its scope. This means deciding which products, services, processes, locations, and functions are covered by the system. The scope should consider the external and internal issues identified in Clause 4.1 and the requirements of interested parties from Clause 4.2. A well-defined scope provides clarity for everyone involved. Everything that falls within the scope of the QMS must conform to the requirements of ISO 9001. This includes all processes needed to deliver the products and services covered, the resources that support those processes, and the management activities that govern them. Organizations cannot selectively apply parts of the standard within the declared scope. The full set of applicable requirements must be met. ISO 9001 allows organizations to exclude certain requirements, but only under strict conditions. An exclusion is justified only when the requirement does not apply to the products and services within scope, and when the exclusion does not affect the organization's ability or responsibility to ensure conformity. For example, an organization that does not perform design and development may exclude Clause 8.3 if it can demonstrate this is genuinely not applicable. The scope of the QMS must be available and maintained as documented information. It must state the types of products and services covered, and it must provide justification for any requirement that is determined not to be applicable. This documented scope statement serves as a reference point for internal auditors, certification bodies, customers, and other interested parties who need to understand what the QMS covers. When an organization seeks certification, the scope statement directly determines what appears on the certification document. The certification body audits against the declared scope, and the certificate states the products, services, and locations that are covered. A scope that is too narrow may exclude important activities, while a scope that is too broad may create unnecessary burden. Getting the scope right is therefore essential for both practical management and certification credibility. Let us define 4 terms that are essential for understanding and defining QMS Scope. QMS Scope is the formal boundary of the quality management system. It defines which parts of the organization, which products and services, and which locations are governed by the QMS. The scope is not arbitrary. It must be determined by considering the organization's context, the requirements of interested parties, and the products and services the organization delivers. A clear scope prevents ambiguity about what is and is not covered. Applicability refers to whether a specific requirement of ISO 9001 is relevant to the organization given its scope. The organization must consider each requirement and determine whether it applies. If a requirement is determined not to be applicable, the organization must ensure that this determination does not affect its ability or responsibility to ensure conformity of its products and services and enhancement of customer satisfaction. A justified exclusion occurs when the organization determines that a specific ISO 9001 requirement does not apply to the products and services within scope. The justification must be documented and must demonstrate that the exclusion does not compromise the conformity of products or services. Common exclusions include design and development for organizations that manufacture to customer-provided specifications, but each case must be evaluated individually. The scope statement is the documented expression of the QMS scope. It describes the products and services covered, may reference the locations included, and identifies any requirements that have been excluded with justification. A well-written scope statement is concise, unambiguous, and provides enough detail for an auditor or customer to understand exactly what the QMS encompasses. It is one of the first things a certification auditor will review. Now let us look at the practical steps for defining and documenting your QMS scope. Writing a scope statement is a structured exercise that builds on the context analysis. Here are the steps to follow. The scope definition process begins with the outputs of Clause 4.1 and 4.2. The internal and external issues we identified, along with the requirements of interested parties, directly inform what the QMS must cover. For example, if regulatory requirements apply to all manufacturing sites, then all those sites must be within scope. Starting from context ensures the scope is grounded in real business needs rather than arbitrary boundaries. Next, we list all the products, services, and locations that the QMS will cover. This inventory should be comprehensive and specific. Rather than stating something vague like manufacturing activities, we should describe the specific products manufactured and the sites where manufacturing takes place. Specificity makes the scope auditable and ensures that nothing important is accidentally omitted or included. With the scope boundary defined, we evaluate each clause of ISO 9001 to determine whether it applies. Most clauses apply to every organization, but some, such as Clause 8.3 on design and development, may not apply in certain business models. Each exclusion must be carefully justified to demonstrate that it does not affect the organization's ability to ensure product or service conformity. Certification bodies will scrutinize exclusions closely during audits. Finally, we write the scope statement itself. A good scope statement is concise but complete. It names the products and services covered, identifies the locations included, and lists any exclusions with their justifications. The statement should be reviewed and approved by top management and made available as documented information. It serves as the anchor document for the entire QMS and should be revisited whenever the organization's context changes significantly. Let us recap the essential points from our exploration of QMS Scope. To master ISO 9001 and prepare for the 2026 revision, enroll in the full course. Link in the description. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.